All right, awesome. Thank you, James. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Ana Lebrón. I'm connecting from Chicago, Illinois, and I hope everyone's staying healthy and safe at home, and that you're enjoying all the great talks we're seeing today. So what I'm going to talk about in the next 30 minutes is the SRE role in a mature DevOps organization. And the reason why I am passionate or excited about this topic is because of how I landed in the position that I am today. So I'm currently the manager of an SRE team. We are like 8 site reliability engineers for Enova International. Enova is a fintech company with headquarters in Chicago. But I do not come from a site reliability engineering background. I actually come from a business analyst, project management background. And I started working in site reliability engineering a little bit more than 2 years ago. And when I joined the team 2 years ago, right, like this team, the site reliability engineers, they were handling approximately like 500 like operational tasks on a weekly basis, right? Like it was like a very highly reactive team, right? Like obviously not all the operational tasks, they have the same level of priority or urgency, right? Some things were very critical and they need to be acted right away, some others can wait. But it was a very highly reactive type of team. We used to call ourselves like the funnel, right? Like every incident happening was coming through the funnel, which was the SRE team. So as you can imagine, the everyday of the team, it looks pretty much something like this, right? It was like constant firefighting, responding to things, right? It was very stressful. There was a lot of frustration. So at that point, we were a very rapidly growing company. So we realized very quickly that we cannot scale our operations at the same rhythm that we are scaling our business and our technology. So we decided to start implementing DevOps, our company, right? So as you all know, one of the main principles for DevOps are like end-to-end responsibility, share ownership of the applications that you build. So we put a plan in place. So what we did was like, we say we're gonna move all these operational tasks to the owners, to the engineers. We're gonna train them on how to troubleshoot. We're gonna train them and set them up in their escalation tool, and there we go. We're gonna be like DevOps, and SRE team is gonna be able to be doing some other type of work. And when we put together that plan, a lot of people in the company were asking me, right? Like, what's your SRE team is going to be doing, right? If you don't do reactive work, if you are not responding to incident, to operational tasks, right? What are they going to be doing? And that's a really fair question. And something that was very important through this journey that we started like a little bit more than 2 years ago was that while we thought these DevOps journeys would look like something like this for us, right? Like we thought we were very excited at the beginning. We knew it would be hard, but once we get momentum, we will be able to like have it ready to go and be a DevOps company. The real truth is that our journey is looking something like this, right? It's being like a roller coaster of emotions, right? Like ups and downs, moments of excitement when things are working out, everyone is collaborating together and like everything seems to be fitting well, and some other moments in which like it's not working, right? People are upset, disappointments, we want to throw everything out the window and really like start all over again. So it's really like the real journey looks like something like that. So when we were facing this, we decided to like slightly switch our strategy in this DevOps evolution, right? Like, and the two small change that we made is like the way we were understanding DevOps, right? It wasn't exactly like just apply one principle and then you're a DevOps company, right? Like DevOps is a whole culture, right? Like really going DevOps means to challenge your status quo, right? And adopt a different mindset in which you are able to analyze what really brings value to the organization, and everything that is left is just waste, right? And it's a cultural shift. Like DevOps is spread across the entire organization, and it radically changed the way we work and that we collaborate with each other, right? We are more responsive to change. And the other switch that we made to our strategy was the way we were measuring success, right? Like, even if my presentation is called like mature DevOps organization, we stopped calling ourselves mature DevOps, right? Because what mature means, right? Like, we wanted to measure what value we were bringing to the company, to the organization, right? So we're starting measuring capabilities over outcome, over maturity. We were measuring like outcomes versus output, and ultimately the value added. And this is very important, right? Because this value added that you're bringing to the company is really what's gonna define how your SRE team is gonna look like. Whatever, if you're building a brand new SRE team, or if you are, like it was my case, evolving, right, an SRE team already existing in the company. So with that in place, just a quick recap of the goals of this presentation, which is that to like have an overview of like a few SRE team models and ownership and responsibilities. But if there is some takeaways that I want the audience to take, those are three, right? The first one is that the DevOps journey, it looks different for every organization, right? I show like very highly level how it looks like for us, but I'm sure like all of you are facing like some other different type of challenges. And equivalent to that, an SRE team or an SRE model is not a one-size-fits-all, right? Like there is also like different solutions for different type of organizations. But what I feel is steady for an SRE team is their goal, right? And the goal of the SRE team is to proactively deliver reliable services. And that's how we are measuring the value that we're bringing to the organization. So just a quick refresher on the definition of DevOps, right? Like, I'm sure everyone is super familiarized with these, but like the set of practices that automate the process between software and IT, so we can build, test, and release software faster and more reliably, right? And as I mentioned before, DevOps is a whole changing culture. It has some principles, end-to-end responsibility, obviously, is a very important one, but it also focuses on customer needs, continuous improvement, foster collaboration, automate everything or almost everything. It's like applying all those principles, what really built this growing culture. And what is interesting about the whole DevOps history is like, even if it became very popular in 2009 during that Velocity conference, right, when like Paul Hammond and John Alspan made this presentation, right, in which we were role-playing, right, like an engineer, software engineer, and an operator, and all the blame that come with like a software release. And they made it very clear that the only way to move forward is to make this relationship like transparent and fully collaborative. The term SRE, it came in the industry way before that. It was in 2003 when Ben Traynor was hired by Google to create and to build a team of seven like engineers that they will be running production. And he called them site reliability engineers. And the way we know or we define site reliability engineers right now in the industry is pretty much how Ben Traynor envisioning at that time, right? Which is like fundamentally putting engineers doing work that traditionally has been done by operators, but knowing that those engineers have the skill sets and have and they are predisposed to automate and to have the ability to substitute automation for human labor, basically just to make operations very, very efficient. And how both of these terms are related, like SRE and DevOps. SRE is just like a very concrete implementation of DevOps. It's not the only one, obviously. Like a lot of companies out there, they have SRE teams, and they're using their SRE teams to really drive the DevOps culture. But there is many other different models you can implement your culture. I think the alignment here comes from the perspective that DevOps principles, they aligned really well with SRE goals, right? So that's why the SRE is a great team to drive that type of a culture. So what I'm gonna go next is really the meat of the sauce of my presentation, right? Which is the different models that I am evaluating and that I'm thinking that they're more efficient for like a DevOps company. And the first distinctions and the first decision, if you're looking to build like an SRE team, that you will have to face is if you're going to be like a centralized SRE team, or if you're going to be an embedded one, right? Like this is the most simple, you know, like way you can differentiate those two teams, right? Like the SRE, centralized SRE team is going to interact with the product teams, and an embedded SRE, it's going to be part of the same staffing pool that the software engineering, and the number of site reliability engineers you're going to have in your team, it will depend on how reliable your product is. But this is too simple, right? Like I think we need to deep dive a little bit more into like how the SRE team operates in relation to those product teams. And that's what I'm going to walk through next, which is like 3 models, again, that I think they're the most common out there in the industry, and that can provide you a little bit more information into like how the SRE team operates. So the first one is the product and platform focused SRE team. So for this model, the SRE team is a dedicated engineering team focused on running and scaling a product or a platform. So the SRE team is directly updating the code base, right, for reliability features, and they're also building tools for that specific product. In terms of on-call responsibilities that fall within that SRE team, they handle on-call responsibilities for the product, but they can hand off those on-call responsibilities to the product team if reliability of the product falls below a specific threshold that they may have previously agreed, right? So as I say, like the SRE team just focus on a critical application or a business area, but then the reliability of ancillary services, for example, like a batch processor, right? That is the responsibility of a different team. So the pros of this model is that it provides like a very clear focus for the team's effort, right? And it allows like a clear link with the business priorities, because like both of those teams, the product and the SRE, they're going to be contributing and they're going to be driving towards the same business goals. The cons of this model, obviously, since it is like a decentralized model, is that if your company is growing, you're going to need more engineering teams, and having so many engineering teams can lead to duplication of infrastructure, or like duplication of practices in between the teams, which is obviously not very efficient. No, it's not efficient, and it's going to limit a lot knowledge sharing. So that's something you will have to take into account if you want to move into like an SRE team that is focused on a product or a platform. So the next model is like having an SRE team that is like centralized and is more like a center of practice, center of excellence, right? For like reliability and tools. And this model of SRE team is like a centralized team focused on creating and advocating for reliability tools and processes. So it is a consulting intern and consulting arm that help adopt SRE practices, but it does not have direct product accountability, right? So for that reason, on-call responsibilities doesn't fall in the SRE team. The SRE team only going to handle on-call responsibilities for internal tools, but every customer-facing tools on-call responsibilities will fall under the product team or the feature team. So a tools-only SRE team tend to focus on building software and tools that they help the developers to run and maintain and scale their reliability or any other aspect of SRE, for example, capacity planning, right? But someone can really argue that this type of a team, right, like an SRE tooling team, it looks pretty much the same that an infrastructure team, that a classic infrastructure team, and that's true, right? Like the implementation of both, they're very similar. I will say the distinction between them is that the SRE tooling team is focused on tools that they directly impact reliability, right, or features that they impact reliability, as opposed that an infrastructure team that is more focused on the back end, like hard infrastructure, right, that this team have traditionally been focused on. As a side effect, also, like for these type of teams, there is a risk of solving the wrong problem, because the SRE team is not going to be like handling the first line support of like incidents for the product. So it's harder for the team to understand the practical problems. So they're really going to have to make an effort to understand what the practical problems are for that product, to implement the right tool that is going to solve those problems. So that's a risk of this model, definitely to take into account. And then the last model I wanted to show you all is the embedded SRE. I think I briefly talked about it before, but this is like basically having SREs being part of the same staffing pool than the rest of the engineers, right? So the SRE engineers, they are embedded into a cross-functional team, and they own the end-to-end life cycle of a product from inception to the commission. And in this case, the entire team is on rotation for being on call, right? Like there is no distinction between like an SRE or like another engineer. This engagement in between an SRE and the engineering group, they typically are like project-based or time-boxed, but the SREs will be contributing to the base in a similar fashion to any other engineer, and you can change configuration, YAML, everything. The pros of this model is that the SRE expertise is directed to a specific problem, right, and a specific of SREs, which is like a very efficient way of learning, right, effective teaching method. Similar to the first model that I showed you, right, the risk of this model is like it is very, very, very decentralized. Like if your company grow a lot, you're gonna have like a lot of teams, obviously a lot of engineering teams, and you have the risk of duplicating infrastructure, of duplicating like features, reliability sets that obviously is not very efficient. But independently of the model that you decide to go to, right, something that is very clear to me is that the SRE role in a DevOps organization is a combination of a reactive and a proactive type of work. Obviously, like when I started 2 years ago, we were highly reactive, right? Like 90% reactive, like tons of operational work, tons of like incidents. But reactive work, it doesn't go away. I think it's part of the blood of reliability engineering, right? So like it really stayed there, but there needs to be like a healthy balance, obviously, in between both. So like every tech organization, I'm sure all of you know, like you always have operational work to do, right? Like and part of that is still gonna fall under the SRE responsibility, there are going to be escalation things, and there are going to be incidents, right, impacting your customers, and retrospective and all that reactionary work. It is something that SREs are good and they will be doing. But by growing your DevOps culture, you're really going to give your team, your SRE team, the opportunity to build software and to design software that implement automation, tooling, applications that improve reliability and also reduce all that operational work, right? They are also like focused a lot of like making alerts and observability very efficient, right? Getting rid of any noisy alerts or unused alerts and focus on those alerts that they are actionable, right? Define service level indicator, service level objectives. They're also going to be focused on optimizing processes for reliability, and then production ready, right? Like ensuring that you are continuously delivering reliable services. And actually this last portion is very important, and that this is how I want to like circle back to the beginning of my presentation, right? In which I was mentioning like DevOps push shared responsibility for the reliability of the application, right? And this is a very, very important principle for DevOps. But I think the real big challenge as you face this journey, right, and as you are evolving this culture, is really adapting that SRE mindset. And that's why the SRE role and your SRE team is so important, because it can help people cultivate a new way of approaching the process of building systems, right? Like it's just that changing mindset, right, of approaching like collaboration in a different way, what is really going to move the needle, what is really going to add value, and what I have definitely have seen really like making a difference on how we operate as a DevOps organization. So again, coming back to the beginning of my slides, and also to the takeaways that I want the audience to take, is that independently of the model that you decide for your SRE team, independently of the different responsibilities and the reactive versus proactive set of expectations that you have for your team, right? I think a very important way and a very like key way of measuring if you are adding value is like if you are proactively delivering reliable services, right? And that should be the guiding light of the SRE team, and that's very like I think good way of measuring that value added. So this is all I have, right? This is my presentation. I hope walking through these models give you like a good starting point if you are planning of building your SRE team, or growing, evolving your SRE team from like doing different type of work into like something else. But really has been a pleasure talking to
Excellent.
you.
Thank you so much,
Happy to
Anna.
take any question.
That was a great talk. We do have a question from the audience. In the embedded SRE model, can you share your experiences with retention, specifically in keeping individuals on embedded SRE teams both interested and engaged in the work?
Right, that's definitely a challenge, right? Like, and that's come for every individual career role, right? Like, I think like the SRE folks, at least the ones that I have seen that they're the most successful, are like they have the reactive desire in their blood, right? Like they're people that they're just like firefighters. There is like a huge incident, like a failover, and it's like the playroom, right? Like they like doing this type of work. So I think it definitely can be a problem because if that's something that obviously if it is like an engineer person that is not interested on that reaction type of the work, right? Obviously, it's not going to enjoy the SRE team, and being part of an embedded, right? Like it's gonna lean more towards the feature builder type side of the house. So yeah, definitely, I think there could be like a problem with retention, but I think it can probably be aligned with the career goals, right, of like each individuals.
And do you find in cultures where that is a problem that they might be better served by the center of excellence or the tools
Right,
model?
right. And I think like it influences a lot of things, right? One is the size of the company, obviously, right? Like the business where that company is running. Some companies they really are more comfortable taking risk with their production environment, so they're willing to take more like outages and incidents, right? Some others they can't. So I think it depends on the size, it depends on the culture, exactly what James, what you were saying, right? Like if it is a culture in which you can like really be a consulting for those teams, like I think it would definitely be a better model.
Okay, cool. And as far as the models you outlaid, have you seen ability to if you pick one model to morph it into another model or back, or are there like are there any types of landmines to be looking out for, or obstacles to overcome?
No, I mean it's definitely difficult because when you are deploying a culture, right? Like it makes it different for people
It's a
to
lot of pressure,
right.
right?
And it's such a, I feel like especially for us, right? As we are deploying this DevOps, I feel it's like a big monster moving very slow, right? Like so
Right.
if you pick a model that you want to go through, you want to make your due diligence to make sure that it works, right? Like you can obviously change, but once you get into like that culture of like, okay, I own these on-call responsibilities, switching that, it takes time because it's like moving this whole monster again into like another direction, you know what I mean? So it definitely like learned your teams, learned how your engineers like to operate, see which business, which type of company, what leadership even support, right? Before you make your model, right? And try to stay with it. You need to change, right? Like that's DevOps ability to change, you change, but
Right.
definitely it takes time.
Excellent. Thank you. We do have one more question from Alexandra, who asks, how do you balance tasks to get done, i.e. incident response and future learning? Things that can help your team find new awesome technology or other solutions. All three seem to always have very high priority, if not priority number one.
Right, like generally like operations, right? Responding to incident, right? Like this task oriented work, it always tends to like have that high level of priority. I'm sure you have seen like a lot of companies, I know Google does it that way, right? Like you need to cap that time, right? Like allocating X amount of time to that operational work. There is obviously like high priority incident, customer impacting incidents that take number one priority over anything else. But things that they can wait, we need to be able to time box. So we're doing that for a lot of our engineers. It's not easy when you have a queue of tasks to do, right? To move away from that. So I even recommend like close it out, right? Like
Right.
close your queue. Don't look at it. If there's a fire, I'm gonna call you, right? Like,
Right.
but giving them that time to like really focus on that proactive work on that really can move the needle to reduce the manual labor. It's important. So those are some of the tricks, right? Like time box it, put time on your calendar, right? Like 3-4 hours
Mm-hmm.
a day where you close your queue, you don't look at that task type of work, and focus on your projects.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Anna, for presenting here at Buffalo DevOps Days. That was a fascinating look at the not mature, capable SRE role inside of a DevOps organization.